next toolkit entry is called triangle congruence, and what we're saying in this is that triangles are congruent if all angles are congruent and the corresponding sides are congruent as well. However, there's some shortcuts for actually proving that triangles are congruent. So in other words, you don't need to know that all three angles and all three sides are congruent. There's actually quicker ways of doing it, and we call those 5 triangle congruence theorems. So the first one is, if we just know 3 sides and each triangle are congruent to the other 3 sides, we call that side, 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 or SSS congruency. By the way, that is the symbol right here for congruency. We know that these 2 triangles here are congruent. Likewise, if we know 2 sides are congruent and the angle in between them, so we call that side angle side, and it's important to write as SAS because that shows that the angle is in between our 2 sides, and you can see here in the diagram that we do have our 2 sides and the angle in between them. 2 sides are congruent to these 2 sides, and it's the angle in between them that's congruent. All right, so there is definitely more. So the third one is called angle side angle, and that means we know 2 angles are congruent, and it's the side in between them. So here we have our 2 angles. 2 angles are congruent, and it's the side that connects those 2 angles that is congruent. And it's different from for the next one, which is angle, angle, side, because this time it's 2 angles and a side as well, but it's called angle, angle, side because the side is not in between our 2 angles. So here we have our 2 angles, and over here we have our 2 angles, and you'll notice the side is not in between them, which is different from angle, side, angle. Finally, our last one is called hypotenuse leg. So if you know it's a right triangle, and obviously these are right triangles here, if you know the hypotenuses, and they are congruent here, and if we know the legs are congruent as well, we know that those 2 triangles are congruent to each other. So that's the 5 shortcuts to proving triangle congruence.